Hi, Jenny.
Hi.
Welcome. Well, interesting times, and want to introduce Jenny, and we'll have Jenny tell us a little bit about herself. But Jenny, if you're not aware, Jenny is our VP of Education on our board here at WSIA. I get to work very closely with her and some others in putting these programs together and other education programs. But Jenny has the great role of being a caretaker for a very large organization that, from my perspective, really supports her in that mission. And she gets to do a lot of research on how we're doing and how to help us do better. And I'm excited to hear this presentation she has this morning. I'll let her tell a little bit more about it, but this is information that she gets to share with Puget Sound Energy as an organization and one of our WSIA members here. So Jenny, I'll turn it over to you and tell us a little bit more about how we find happiness.
All right, Lloyd, thank you very much. I'll share my screen here. And looks like I need to have screen sharing capabilities. Don't have those yet. So if you can help me out with that.
All right, I will. Let's see here. Share screen. Do you have the option to ask to share screen? Oh, who can share? All panelists. There, we did it.
Okay.
All right, that should do it.
All right, can everybody see that okay?
Perfect.
Good deal. We're going to talk about finding happiness in winter. And the three things we'll be covering today is what it is exactly that brings us down in wintertime. And then something called the dose of happiness, which is about the neurochemicals of happiness. And then finally, how we can boost our dose. So what is it that brings us down in winter? Well, particularly for those of us in Western Washington, and those of you in Eastern Washington can enjoy the fact that you're not here, is the season. We have 16.75 hours of darkness at the winter solstice. And hang on here, I'm having a little technical difficulty. Let me see if I can get my slides to advance. There we go. In Western Washington, particularly in December, but all throughout the winter, we have lots and lots of rain. In Seattle, in December alone, it's 18 days. In Bellingham, a little bit more than that at 18.3. In Everett, tops both of those at 19 days. Tacoma tied with Everett at 19 days of rain in December. And Olympia is the winner here at 19.6 days. And then, of course, if you're out in someplace like Forks, it's even more. With shorter daylight, our production of melatonin starts earlier. And melatonin signals your brain that it's time to sleep. So when you're getting that produced earlier in the day, you're getting sleepier earlier. Seasonal affective disorder is something I'm sure you've all heard of, and the lack of light throws off our circadian rhythms. So too much of that hormone is produced, too much of that melatonin, and too little of the happy hormone, serotonin, is produced. Here's a few things about seasonal affective disorder. It causes us to feel low and lethargic. We may seek and overeat comfort foods, and we may feel unsocial. Seasonal affective disorder, also known as SAD, can impair cognitive functions as well, such as concentration and our working memory. And a sad statistic is that it's 5 times more prevalent in Western Washington than sunny places in the United States like Florida. Another thing about winter is cold weather, but interestingly, that is not a factor in our mood, but the changing habits due to the cold is. Hibernation mode in the cold weather can make us less social and less active until that all gets flopped over on its head because of the holidays. Holidays are stressful for many of us. While we still feel like hibernating because of our earlier melatonin production, we may have things like travel expectations. Or in 2020, during the holidays, we may have planned travel that we were really looking forward to, and then we had to cancel. Our eating habits tend to change at the holidays. I have to admit, I'd love to know where this buffet is. It looks incredible. And it's likely that our expenses are increasing because we're buying gifts, we may be traveling, all the different things associated with the holidays, buying all the decorations. I know it could be increased electricity if you've got a lot of lights come. And social expectations increase. This one in particular, I just wanted to mention, it's probably been over 15 years ago now, finally decided not to send out letters during the winter holidays because there was just too much else going on. And I thought it'd be fun for people to receive a letter at Valentine's Day. So every year I send my annual letter sharing what happened in the past year with my family on Valentine's Day. We may have no family at the holidays, which leaves us feeling lonely. Or we may have family that's difficult, that we really just don't like to spend time with, but it's an obligation over the holidays. And this past holiday season, we may have missed getting to celebrate the holidays in person with the people we love. Or we may have grieved those who are no longer with us, and particularly a tough year for those of us who lost people in our lives due to COVID. The year end, for many of us, has year-end deadlines. So while we're feeling like we want to hibernate, we're actually having to work harder and faster. And some of us may have had regrets or sad memories about the past year or other times in our lives. Holidays tend to be a difficult time for those regrets. Many of us drank more. But with all of these things, we can get ourselves on track to feel better. We have natural solutions. We have neurochemicals for pleasure, love, happiness, and pain relief. Let's talk about those neurochemicals. This is where the dose of happiness comes in. The D stands for dopamine, the O, oxytocin, S, serotonin, and E, endorphins. Dopamine is the feel-good hormone. We feel pleasure for rewards, joy. We have better focus and motivation when we have strong dopamine production. Symptoms of low dopamine, and for those of you who have kids at home who are doing school online, you're probably seeing a lot of this right now. Lack of focus, lethargy, and feeling unmotivated. Things that decrease dopamine are stress, diets high in sugar and fat, low protein consumption, excessive alcohol, excessive caffeine, and smoking. Let's talk about oxytocin, the love hormone. It's also known as the hugging hormone. Oxytocin's benefits are that it strengthens relationships, trust, and empathy. And I think I get an oxytocin boost just from looking at this picture. It reduces stress and it eases pain. And it helps with satiety, that sensation of feeling full, so that we don't overeat. Symptoms of low oxytocin are feeling less connected, depression, anxiety, and fear. And with the pandemic, I think a lot of us have been feeling a lot more of these four things. Things that decrease oxytocin are stress and chronic sugar consumption. Serotonin is the happiness hormone. It regulates mood and moderates pain, and it helps us with sleeping, eating, and digestion. Low serotonin can cause depression, anxiety, insomnia, irritability, and low self-esteem. Another note of low serotonin is that it can be the reason behind suffering from migraines. And for those of you who have kids, an interesting thing about kids is that sometimes migraines don't manifest as headaches, but rather as stomach trouble. So if you've ever had a kid who seems to have just ongoing stomach issues, but it's just nothing diagnosable about it that you found so far, it could actually be low serotonin. It can actually be a manifestation of migraines. What decreases serotonin? Insufficient natural light, which Lloyd talked about at the beginning of our session today. Poor diet and chronic stress. Oh, and there's one more at the bottom, and that's not getting enough exercise, being a couch potato. I wanted to throw in one thing that has nothing to do with the seasons, because I think this information is so important. There are medications that have depression as a side effect, and the details about which medications are listed here. It says my screen sharing is paused. Lloyd, am I not sharing my screen now?
I still see all the empty bottles there.
Interesting. Okay, well, it's not letting me advance slides. I'm not sure what, oh, huh, interesting. Okay, well, let's see if that worked. There we go.
Yep.
So number one is medications for acid reflux. Number two is allergy medications. And again, these are specific medications that are listed below. Anxiety medications, birth control, blood pressure, pain medications, and anti-seizure medications. And I want to point out number 6 there, ibuprofen being on the list. So if you're taking any one other of these things and then ibuprofen, then that could be an issue. And the study that was done on this found that if you take 2 or more of these, you're doubling your likelihood of depression. And if you take 3 or more, you're tripling your likelihood of depression. If you have concerns about medications based on this information, please discuss them with your health provider who's prescribing those medications. Moving on to endorphins, the E in dose, those are our natural opioids. The benefits for endorphins are pain reduction, well-being, and stress reduction. Symptoms of low endorphins include moodiness, depression, and what decreases endorphin productions? We don't know yet. More research is needed. So how do we boost our dose of happiness? Well, my recommendation is not to do something, but to do several things. And I'm going to be showing you a whole buffet of options that you can choose from and decide what fits best for you. What would you like to start doing more of? Let's talk first about dopamine, the feel-good hormone. You can help others by recognizing them. Recognizing others, receiving recognition is one way to boost dopamine, and also the act of recognizing can boost dopamine. So it's really a win-win. Set goals and meet them. And it can be small goals like putting a task list together each day. I know some of us, when we put together a checklist and we mark things off, we get that dopamine boost. And some of us, it may not be a checklist that does it, but setting larger goals and working towards them and accomplishing them. How to boost dopamine? Here's some dietary information. And I'm sorry, my slide is a little blocked here, but if you look at the bottom there, there's things like soy and seeds and lentils, lots of different healthy foods there to help boost dopamine. And another way to do that is to use stress reduction methods. So that could be things like meditation or prayer. And doing what you can to sleep well. Getting your exposure to light off well before bedtime, not taking caffeine late in the day, winding down at the end of the day, not having a lot of stimulating things in your room, keeping it dark, lots of things you can do. And exercising daily will boost dopamine. And you'll see this image a lot because this exercise has a huge effect on our neurochemicals. Expressing gratitude towards others. Let's talk about oxytocin, the love hormone. Attentively listening. Oxytocin has a lot to do with our feelings of connections with others. And if we can listen mindfully, attentively, that can make a big difference in that feeling of connection and boost our oxytocin. Stroking or cuddling a fuzzy friend. And hugging and kissing. And I know for me, this has been a bit of a challenge during the pandemic because I'm a big hugger and I live in a household with people who are not huggers. So I went through major hugging withdrawal. Probably my oxytocin was dropping when the pandemic started. Ways to boost oxytocin: engage with positive social media. I have a friend who has an absolutely adorable 3-year-old, and she posts pictures of him doing zany things on Facebook, and I always feel just really happy when I look at those pictures, and it gives me the opportunity to respond to her and let her know how cute I think it is. And so we can both get a mutual oxytocin boost out of that. Another example, my daughter for a while there was really into posting gymnastics videos, and she'd do online challenges with other kids, and they'd all cheer each other on as they learn new skills. So although the social media does get a bad rap and it can have some negative consequences, if we use it responsibly in a really positive manner, it can actually be a good thing. And intimacy can boost oxytocin. Telling someone you love them can boost oxytocin. And then foods. And I'm going to see if I can move my little bar here so that I can see bottoms of slides better. There we go. So consuming vitamins D, C, magnesium, and healthy fats. And here are some examples of vitamin D foods: eggs and cheese, meat, carrots, papaya, squash, broccoli, fish, mangoes, peppers, avocados, melon, peaches, apricots. A lot of good ways to get vitamin D. And here are your seafoods, your citrus and your red foods like cranberries and tomatoes and red peppers, and I know it's like a mango there. I have to laugh. Whoever took this picture apparently could not get fresh strawberries because I see some frozen strawberries there. There's kale and kiwi, you know, some of the green things here like broccoli and cilantro. And then here are your 20 best sources of magnesium. We've got cocoa and spinach and lentils and things like coconut and avocado and looks like pumpkin seeds there and fish, and beans. And when it comes to dietary fat, here's the recommendation. 45% monosaturated fats, like you get in nuts and seeds and olive oil and avocado. 35% of omega-3s that you can get from salmon and walnuts and flax seeds. And then 20% saturated fats like cheese and butter and red meat, which, you know, you want to keep those to a minimum, but you certainly can have them in your diet and still get some benefit from them. So let's talk about boosting serotonin, our happiness hormone. And I can't emphasize enough the importance of light, particularly for those of us who live in these rainy, gray day climates during the winter. An easy way to address the light issue on those gray, rainy days is to use a therapy light, a seasonal affective disorder light. And using these in the morning, they need to be about 10,000 lux to be effective, can make a huge, huge difference. We had an employee at Puget Energy who called me years ago because she wanted to bring her dog into work because she was so miserable and she felt like that would cheer her up enough she might be able to focus. And it was a really, really rainy winter. And when I talked to her about it, I suggested her talking to her doctor about getting one of these lights. And she did, and she used it every morning. And 3 weeks later, she called me and she said, you know, I had been so low and so exhausted. I would come home from work and my chores wouldn't get done, my errands wouldn't get done. I just didn't have the energy. She said, after using this light for a few weeks, I feel fine. It can have that big of a difference. The lights are available on Amazon, and you can read all the reviews and pick the right one for you. I don't recommend the little tiny ones or the ones that have anything less than 10,000 lux of light. And here we go again with exercise. And tryptophan in diet. This is an interesting one. A little bit more research is needed on this to make it certain, but it is thought that tryptophan in diet does help with serotonin. And here are the foods with the highest tryptophan content. And I found this really interesting. If you look in the red there, turkey actually isn't that high up on the list. We all think of turkey and falling into a turkey coma after eating it because we get so sleepy, but it's nowhere near where things like cod and spirulina are. And spirulina is something I keep seeing at grocery outlets. So for those of you who shop at grocery outlet, it's something you can get in powdered form and add it to your beverages. Never tried it myself, but I've been tempted. It really seems to be expensive, but if it's something you can afford and want to try, it is great for tryptophan. Other things, Parmesan and pork, and then a little bit less than turkey or beef and salmon, and then there's eggs and potatoes. And then let's talk about boosting our natural opioids. You can boost your endorphins with acupuncture and massage and sex. I bet you never thought you'd go to a WSIA conference where having sex was recommended, but today you just did. And enjoying music. This is something I've been really enjoying watching in my household, because for a lot of us, our real pleasure for music is something we discover in our teenage years. And I have two teens at home, and they're both interacting with music really differently. My son was at a camp where he took a music appreciation course, and since then has been putting together this playlist of every kind of music you can imagine. So he'll go from listening to Gregorian chants to rap to 1940s music. I mean, just a little of everything. And he just loves it. And my daughter has gotten really interested in record albums, and she got a record player at the holidays, the winter holidays, and she's just been enjoying going to antique stores. Of course, we go masked when they're not crowded, and she's been picking out record albums, and she's just loving doing that, and it's been so fun to watch. And of course, exercise. And my personal favorite, dark chocolate to boost endorphins. And laughing. One thing a change I made for myself when the pandemic started is I've never been a big TV watcher, but now that I'm home so much, every evening I watch a sitcom. And exercise, as I mentioned, is a huge one because it increases endorphins, serotonin, and dopamine. And for kids, studies have shown participation in organized sports lowers the risk of depression. This has been really tricky during the pandemic. I told my son I would let him continue with soccer under three conditions. One of them was that he wear a mask at all times. Number two is that he couldn't stand in lineups for things like goal kicks, and couldn't bunch around with other people for throw-ins. And he was the only kid on the field wearing a mask. And his team wasn't even doing scrimmages or anything like that because they were trying to keep the kids away from each other. They were having them, conditioned in areas on the field where they weren't near each other and passing at a distance. And then they decided that all the kids needed to wear masks. And when that happened, they started being able to scrimmage. So it is possible to do organized sports right now. And many of the schools are starting them back up. So it's just a matter of you finding that comfort zone if you have kids on how they can participate safely. And time in nature lowers stress. For me, I know it's being among trees, but mountains and ocean and snow and all of those things can do a lot to help us feel better, particularly on a sunny day like the one in this picture. Some considerations for the pandemic. If you are feeling lonely, that is your mind's way of telling you it's time to seek out others. Go ahead, phone a friend. And keep thinking of ways to keep yourself boosted. So I'd like folks now to use the Q&A feature and share some of the things that you've been doing to boost your happiness during the winter and during this pandemic. And Lloyd, I'm going to ask you to share these with me so that I'm not splitting my screen. So as things come up, go ahead, folks, type in what you're doing to keep yourself happy. And if Lloyd, you can just let me know what people are typing in, that'd be great.
Sure, I can share that. Well, while we're waiting for some comments to come in, I see Haykin, and I was just going to mention, we have this little dog who insists on taking us for a walk, and so as I've been working from home, it's kind of become a routine, and now he expects an afternoon walk, and sometimes he's the one that pulls me out of my out of my forest, if you will. He comes in and comes up and says, "Hey, it's time to go for a walk." So we go for a quick walk, and I've also found a lot of neighbors are doing that more too. I've met more of my neighbors. So let's see, video chat with friends, family to see them.
Great.
Working out.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Video chat with friends. Oh, here we go. Exercising with my husband, using a sad light right now, spending time with grandkids, camping in the snow, going for a hike or cuddling with my dogs, mountain biking, long walks, exercise, outdoors, went on vacation to beach, COVID friendly, but I'm going to start exercising more. Arts and crafts, game nights with family, sunrise and moonlight gratitude. Sunrise and Moonlight Gratitude by Emily Silva. Taking the dogs on walks, doing home projects, bonfires, playing music or video games, video chat with grandkids, play with and cuddle with my dogs. Making others happy is an extremely important part of my day every day. Coaching youth sports, going to the gym, working hard, and being an active participant in events such as this is a good way to be social. Thank you, Sue. Walking, hiking, music, exercise, and we have a bunch in the chat there as well. So crochet projects, watching old funny movies with my 10-year-old. That's a good one too. If you get teenagers, you get to show them some classics that they don't think they will enjoy. Scrapbooking, crochet projects. Oh, I read that. Cooking new types of food, trying to master Indian dishes, playing cards with my daughter, bubble up with one another, one other family who has kids same age as ours. Cooking new types of food. Oh, I read that. Playing cards with my daughter, dancing, walking, walks when it's dryish. All right, working on household projects, changing kitchen tiles. There you go. Reading, walks when the sun is out, running, walking, talking with friends, watching. All right.
That's a great list. You know, and I got to say, I'm loving the fact that my partner's thing that he's been doing is home improvement projects. It's like, this is great. I'm so glad that that's what makes you happy, because the house looks fantastic. A lot of really good things there. And hopefully a lot of you have tried things new that you haven't done before. Some examples. Whoa, my slides just went wacko here. Hang on, bear with me, and oh my goodness, my mouse. Okay, I lost mouse control. No. I had some pictures for you, and I don't know if I'm gonna be able to do anything about it because I have lost all control here. But I had some pictures of cooking new dishes, which I think somebody mentioned there. They're trying Indian food. And one of the things that I started doing that I'd never done before is karaoke with my son. The programs you can download online so that you can pick your songs. And we bought some microphones. And I can't say that he sings on key, but we've had a great time with it. And then a lot of people have adopted animals during this time. So that's been really nice that they have their little cuddly friend at home and have been able to give their animal a lot of attention. So I have a Q&A slide here that I don't think I can show you because my screen is completely frozen. But I want to give people an opportunity here to ask any questions about anything that we shared today about finding happiness in winter. And again, Lloyd, I really can't see anything now. So if you could share with me any questions that folks have or any questions.
Okay. All right, and while we're waiting for some of those to come in, some questions that I jotted down as you went through your presentation. This is kind of similar to a presentation you did for PSC employees, and I recognize that you certainly see your role as supporting return to work efforts and within your organization, and you'd mentioned that you'd received some great feedback on sharing this with your organization. Can you kind of share with us some of the things that jumped out at you or unexpected realizations? Or
well, one of the things that I thought was so impressive was there was one work group that their management just said, anybody who wants a seasonal affective disorder light, we will buy it for you. Or they didn't even say, well, we'll just reimburse. I mean, yeah. go get it and we'll reimburse it. So we had, when I gave this presentation at PSC, we actually had a contest for a seasonal affective light giveaway that like more than 50 people entered. And so the popularity of those lights, because it's an easy fix. If you're really feeling out of the ordinary and down in wintertime, that's just something so simple that you can do in the mornings to make a huge difference. It was also fun to hear, the different things that people were doing. Some people are getting really creative. I'm trying to remember, there was one person in particular, there was some sort of wildlife training that they took so that they could engage with, I can't remember, it was rattlesnakes or something, but it was just, people making that, I've always wanted to do this and now I have time. And how that was really motivating them to get through this pandemic and help them through this dark winter. So that's been really, really great to see.
Fantastic.
So do we have any that came in? Lloyd, any questions?
Yes. Can these scenarios be mailed to us after the webinar? Okay, so that's referencing the scenarios I shared earlier.
Yeah.
And yes, we will put those slides up on the resource page at the end of today. So I'd like to share your PowerPoint with my colleagues. Will it be available to share? We will have this presentation up there as well on the resource page. Carrie says it's already there. All right.
That was fast. You guys are efficient.
Carrie is very efficient.
Lloyd, question about that, because I know that you put the one about telecommuting fatigue on YouTube. Is that where it'll be?
Yes. Well, we may share this as part of that as well. What we do, thanks for mentioning that, Jenny. Sometimes we find segments that stand alone, and we'll put those up for our membership as a free resource on the YouTube page. So we may share this segment on that as well. Is exercise considered increased movement or weightlifting or aerobic exercise?
Oh, that's a good point. So all of those have different benefits, and I can tell you any movement is better than none. And for those of you who were at the previous presentation on telecommuting fatigue, we need to be moving all day long, because when we stop moving, we reduce the oxygen in our blood, which has implications for our brain and our whole body. So, there are different benefits from each different type of exercise. And I'm a huge advocate for any movement is better than no movement, but if you're able to do weightlifting, fantastic. If you're able to do aerobic exercise, fantastic. I mean, any kind of exercise that's not, I was watching Evel Knievel's
maybe not that.
Documentary last night, so maybe it's not suicidal.
Right.
It was a great thing to do for your body and your mind.
Yeah, I know. And like I mentioned, just going for a 10-15 minute walk combines several things from your presentation. I mean, walking is just good for your mind as well as your low back and everything else. But it gets you out in nature. Heck, if it's raining, grab an umbrella, go for a walk in the rain. You can do that, and it's pretty great. Next question here: how long do you use the satellite in the morning?
So it's actually not very long. I'm trying to remember. I don't remember exactly what the exact time is, but it's only like 20 minutes or something like that. But you can get online and look that up. Lots and lots and lots of studies have been done on it, and so there's plenty of information online.
Yeah, I have a small one that my son bought and left at the house when he moved out, and but I use that in my office, and I find it's just some great lighting in my office. Works really well for Zoom calls, by the way. Great broad spectrum bright lighting there. So, but I just leave it on. Go ahead.
The one thing you have to be careful, I got my son one of those little ones that was real flexible and he could put it anywhere, and he started using it as a reading light at night. It's like, no, don't do that, because then he couldn't sleep.
Yep, exactly what you don't want to do. All right. And then we have a comment here: Jenny, your energy and disposition are infectious. PSE is very lucky to have you. Aww. I agree. So, Jenny, another kind of aspect of this, as I said, I was going through and making notes, and others feel free to add some other questions. We have some time here. But I mentioned at the beginning, I've experienced this effect or something affecting me more than other years, and all those combination of things. Interesting, the drug interactions with some pretty common things, ibuprofen, the go-to over the counter stuff in your cabinet. I wouldn't have seen that at all. the vitamin D supplements. I think all of it's not one thing you do, it's everything you do. It all adds up, if you can put it all together. The lack of activity, the weight gain. For me, I just want to brag a little bit here and show, I had endoscopic carpal tunnel release almost 5 weeks ago. And so I thought it'd be a great idea to get this done during the holidays. Things are slow anyway, and so did that. Wow. Well, talk about weight gain. When my wife, her love language is baking, and she makes wonderful cookies every year. And so I had the holidays, I had plenty of ibuprofen, I had inactivity, all these things, and it all just builds up, and my mood so impacted. I'll also declare that I put on 15 pounds in a month when I wasn't looking. So I'll warn you all about working from home and putting on soft pants versus putting on hard pants. If you put on the soft pants too long, you don't realize how big you're getting. But man, then my back started bothering me. But all these things they can collide real quickly and have an effect. And as we think about taking care of ourselves, then if we're trying to do our work from home or wherever, and we're trying to help a worker who maybe is going through all of that and more, how can we recognize and see those things? And I'm curious, kind of a question I have is for the audience. So are there things that your organization recommends for workers? Let me put that a different way. As a claims manager or someone who is helping injured workers, do you work for a company like Jenny's that provides that extra support? Is that something that's supported by your organization? Really, why don't you raise your hand if you feel like that's something that's supported by the organization you work for, or supported by the company that you manage claims for, that sort of thing. Just go quick, find that hand raise thing and get kind of an idea. I think this is something that is so important in self-insurance. The privilege of being self-insured allows you to provide some extra benefits outside of the workers' comp system. And certainly larger employers have more organized ways of doing this, but looks like we have about 75 raised hands, and I think that's really great.
Oh, good. That's fantastic.
So real quick, I'm curious if people have any other ideas or ideas that have helped or that you may recommend injured workers. I see a comment here. We have sit-stand desks. You may notice I'm standing here. My back is such that if I sit for too long anywhere, it starts to bother me. So I've set up a stand-up workstation at home as well. Absolutely. Important thing I'd say about that, and some of the research that I've done, is that if you're going to do a stand-up desk, it's good to have something to prop your foot up on, kind of like you're at the bar, but wait till after work. But being able to move your legs back and forth and shift your weight from one to another. A lot of people think that stand-up workstation is just locking in place and standing up all day, and that can be also damaging. It's not the standing per se, it's the constant movement and that sort of thing. Sour cherry juice is helpful as a sleep aid.
Oh, interesting.
There you go.
Ooh.
My follow-up question would be, where do you find sour cherry juice?
Health food stores.
Health food store, I guess. Huh?
I did. Health food stores.
All right.
Every now and then they have it at grocery outlet, but
okay.
You never know.
Okay. Well, so if any other questions or thoughts there, what I'm going to do is I'm going to invite our next two presenters, and I'm going to keep you on here, Jenny. And let's see if I do this right. Oh yeah, day drinking is probably not the best idea.
Lauren, something I did, I tried this. I actually started taking vitamin D because I I just have a terrible chocolate craving all the time.
Me too.
And I tried 2 different things to try to get rid of it. And strangely, taking vitamin D did it.
Huh.
It's helping a lot.
Yeah, I also take a vitamin D supplement each morning as part of my, like I said, I don't know if it works, but it all adds up, I hope.